All right, and we are recording. Thanks everyone for coming. This is the Tellor Tech Call, February 4th, 2020. So yeah, lots of fun stuff to go over. We're just going to go over kind of the dev stuff and talk about some of the issues that we'll be working on over the next week or month. And then kind of like last week, we had a questionnaire for you guys to fill out and you really took to it. So we have a lot of questions to go over. So we'll just kind of spend the time going over those. So the first thing, the big minor release again, we released an automatic disputer. So what the automatic disputer allows you to do, you can actually go run it even if you don't want to be a miner. You can just run the disputer. You store all the values that the miner should be submitting, kind of a historical range of values. So then, like, let's say somebody comes and requests the Bitcoin price. For the next 10 minutes, the miners are going to be trying to solve that proof of work challenge. And then what they do is they submit a price of Bitcoin. Well, what our disputer does is it keeps track of what the price of Bitcoin was during those 10 minutes. And if there's a discrepancy, let's say that the miner lied and said that the price of Bitcoin was actually $20,000 or something, the disputer would see that that's outside of that range and it would tell you, hey, this is wrong. And then what it allows you to do is go and submit a dispute on it. And right now, there's very few disputes, obviously, because that means all of our miners are being honest. Because if a miner does get disputed, it costs right now about 500 tokens to dispute him. And the reason is that if he can't mine for a week, so his 1,000 tokens are locked up, and that can be very costly to him. So if it was a bad dispute, meaning he was actually honest and you're just freezing him for no reason, he gets to keep your 500 tokens. But if it's a good dispute, meaning he did lie, you get to keep his 1,000 tokens. So you can make some money off of it if we get some lying miners. But it's just a good thing to have running. We're running it, and some of the other miners are running it as well. If you're running a miner already, definitely all you have to do is add dispute checker to the trackers in your config file, and then you can run it. It doesn't automatically dispute, it just flags it for you to look at. You might as well, and it's a good thing just to kind of maintain the health of the network. So that was kind of the big thing that we were working on over the past few weeks. Thanks to Charlie Horse for helping get that out. The other thing with the miner, the pool has been humming along nicely. If you guys aren't aware, you can go to tellorpool.org. You can actually just look at our normal miner documentation. We have how to connect to a pool. And you can mine even if you don't have 1,000 tokens to stake. The pool's been doing relatively well, which is awesome. So as mining is a giant part of the security of our network, and we're continuing to get better and better at it week over week. So it's really exciting. And then just for kind of the dev goals for us over what I guess you can say, a lot of people have been asking, okay, well, the miner is done, right? What are you guys going to be doing now as developers? And the main answer is the miner is never done. We can always make the miner better. But I'd say the first thing, if you want to see like what we're thinking about doing, what we're trying to do on the developer side, actually go look at the bounties program. Go look at the GitHub issues. You can see a lot. Basically, I'm using the bounties program as these are things that I want to do over the next year. Help me out. We don't want to give you guys just cheap bounties and things that we're not doing. We want you guys to actually help contribute to the state of the network. So some of the things in there that you'll notice, we're working on the alternate chain structure for Tellor. So we released a cross-chain doc a few weeks ago, got some feedback on that, and we're actually starting to build it now. So it's going to allow us to deploy Tellor on Matic or on Cosmos or some of these other systems. And that's going to be really exciting whenever we get that. It's a big Solidity build at the moment. So if you're interested in helping with that, that's one thing. Another thing you'll see on there's a lot of, we call them just hacks. We want people to build on Tellor. We want people to use Tellor. And, we know that dev cycles for a lot of other projects are really slow. It took Tellor from February last year, whenever we started building in it, to August to launch. So, even once you have a concrete plan, it just takes a while to get audited, to push through. But we have things that we can build ourselves on there. So, we used to build a derivatives platform. We'd love you guys to help us hack there, and we'll dog food our own product if we have to. Other things, I think some people had mentioned the ADO, the Alliance of Decentralized Oracles. We're continuing to work with those guys. We'll probably be announcing a virtual meetup here sometime soon. What that's going to do is it's going to allow Tellor to sort of work with these projects to really make oracles that make sense in the space. So then if you have some of these larger projects that Tellor is kind of too small of a fish to go after, if we go after it with these other projects, then we can tell them, hey, altogether we do have the security for you to be decentralized. Now quit with using your centralized oracle, because you don't have that excuse anymore. And that's going to be really important, because that's ultimately what we want. And then kind of on the miner piece as well, we want to work on just some more of the non-standard PSRs, I like to call them. So there's other things, eventually we want to move away from just pure reliance on API data. So right now we rely on, you have to go to Binance.com and pull the price, or Binance's API. Eventually we'd love to implement something that you guys actually have some more manual input into it. The miners themselves actually have some feedback. Even if you're not a miner, you can be part of, say, like a gossip network or like a torrent protocol for passing these things back and forth. And then it really makes it more exciting, because now you're sort of truly censorship resistant. Whereas, some of these other prices, you're sort of dependent on that centralized API. So yeah, those are some of the fun ones. Also, we'll probably be implementing a change to the PSR over the next month, which will be putting in the DeFi score. So we'll be able to pull the DeFi score right on chain, which will be cool. Go to DeFi score if you haven't. They're cool. Yeah, and other bounties. So we put up some more for videos, articles, if you want to do some of those, if you're not really a technical person. Come help us out. We've had a few people take us up on that, and we'd love to just kind of get the community moving with those, because we've been thinking, how's the best way to engage these projects, and it's because it is really, how do we sort of get adoption? And whenever you look at, the thing I always think back to is like, okay, whenever I was trying to start my derivatives project 2.5 years ago, I would have just been thrilled if an oracle came to me and said, come use this oracle. You sort of don't get that kind of relationship whenever you're really early on, but those are the projects that we want to meet. Trying to sell a maker or a compound after they've raised, $100 million or whatever it is, it's a much bigger sell. Those are just very, very different than interacting with very small projects who are starting to build and starting to need these oracles. And, part of it comes with, we'll be interacting with developers at ETH Denver. We'll be kind of paying attention to all the other hackathons in the space, because that's one way to meet developers. But really the best way is just being, as a community, aware of a lot of these early projects, what people are starting to build, even from kind of that ideation phase where they're starting to just look into raising capital from an angel or something. That's when we want to go tell them about Tellor. That's when we want to help them. We want to be an integral part of their design. And that's whenever we're really going to succeed. Because despite all of the traction that DeFi has made, I would still like to think that the best products have not even been built yet. So, yeah, so I think we have a whole lot of questions. So before I just continue to rant, we can just go right into the questions.
All right, let's do it. We got 31 responses this week, so that's definitely about double of last week. So good job, guys. The first question is, Do you think finance is and always will be blockchain's best use case?
I guess I can take it. So the big issue right now with blockchain, I don't think it will be blockchain's best use case.
Yeah, it would be kind of depressing if it ended up being blockchain's best use case.
But at the moment, so blockchains, people are still sort of figuring out what blockchains are good for. So blockchains are really slow and expensive. That's, so especially like when you look at Ethereum, like people have always asked me, what do you think is going to be built on Ethereum? I do think it's going to be financed for the most part on Ethereum, at least for a little time being, because if things are slow and expensive, you can only have sort of very high value items on a blockchain. It's all that makes sense to pay for. So what are high value items? It's going to be finance for the most part. But I mean, to me, the big revolution of blockchain isn't necessarily a financial one, even though you can build sort of these decentralized monies and these cool financial things. But like you can build a lot of those in the real world. So you could build a stable coin in the real world, or you could build something that pays you interest in real time in the real world, but nobody uses those. So like, why do you think it would work on a blockchain? So yeah, I think finance will sort of take off, but hopefully I think governance and the ability to create these communities that are sort of free from the normal regulations of kind of physical boundaries. That's what's really going to be the revolution of blockchain.
When we're not talking about oracles and we're geeking out about future possibilities, we talk about communities and governance. That's really exciting stuff. Okay, question number 2. Guessing you guys are a big fan of DeFi. Kind of went into that a little bit with this one. What's your favorite DeFi project besides Tellor?
Favorite DeFi project? Yeah, we're Maker's an investor in us, so they're cool. And then
having a stablecoin makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, stablecoins really seem to be one of the best product fits for me.
Exchanges really make sense.
Decentralized exchanges. I mean, that's like sort of DeFi light in my mind, but it's, decentralized exchanges are such a revolution. I mean, for people like me who have been in, like I've been in the space since before decentralized exchanges. I remember before they launched, I mean, now it's so easy to use. Like I would rather use a decentralized exchange than a centralized exchange. Like you can go use a non-custodial exchange. And it's always in your wallet. They're crazy user-friendly now. They've come such a long way and they're awesome. So yeah, that's one that I think, there's still a lot of issues with them in front running and some little pieces here and there, but they've come a long way and they're good.
A new one, I won't say this is my favorite, but a new one we heard of from DeFi Dude was Pool Together, which is kind of fun. You guys can look into it. They don't make money off of it. It's just kind of a concept project. It's like a savings account where you can deposit DAI in, and for every DAI you have in your savings account, you get 1 lottery ticket. So like if you have 100 DAI in there, you get 100 tickets. And I think it's every day there's a prize.
So you get the interest. Yes. So it makes interest, and instead of everybody just getting a little bit of interest, they have a lottery for it. So it's cool.
So it's kind of neat and kind of fun. You guys can play around with it, Pool Together. Are there any plans to list on larger non-DEX exchanges? Well, I think certainly that's kind of a inevitability that will come. Again, what we always say is that it's not the priority to fund that process, because those exchanges have really high fees, questionable business models themselves, and it's just not the priority right now.
Yeah, if we can just become a good project, they'll list us anyway.
Exactly.
You don't need to go after them. They'll come to you, and then that's sort of what we've been finding, and we want to hold off strong on that. We want, exchanges are really good, but too much liquidity too early can also have its own issues. So
yeah, so it's not a slam. I know in some of your minds it's like a super slam dunk to get listed on. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily for us, and we're the ones that you guys rely on to be careful with this thing that we built, and so that's what we keep in mind. Next question is: did you get in contact with Thorchain?
Yes, we have I think we're talking to him. I don't know when, but
somewhere.
Yes.
It's on the
Yes.
Next question. Tellor is planning to be able to be used for interchain operations. So when one dApp for say in Cosmos asks for a CryptoKitties price in Ethereum, how would it work?
So that would be technically calling. So you can call the Ethereum RPC just like an API call, basically. So it would be like, the Tellor that's deployed on Cosmos, one of the requests would be to call Ethereum and query some value. Yeah, it would be relatively simple. But the cool thing of whenever you can do kind of those query Ethereum is if you can query Ethereum and query Cosmos, then you can say like, hey, is this, tribute locked up on Ethereum? If yes, then unlock it here. And then you can build bridges. And that's the cool thing that oracles allow you to do.
Yep. Okay, so next question is, aren't you afraid that it will take a long time before companies want to use Tellor because of the higher the market cap, the more secure the Tellor network is? And so now nobody would risk using it without that high market cap, and it becoming a vicious cycle. Like if you don't have a higher market cap, you can't get users. And if you can't get users, you can't get the higher market cap.
Yep.
So what is your plan to make a market cap bigger given that? I paraphrased a little bit, but that's the essence of the question.
Well, I think we had the auto, so working with other oracles to be able to secure more. And then also just, working to...
It's like the Voltron of oracles.
Yeah.
For Voltron fans, or maybe... all right.
It's over my head as well, so...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, we'll work on getting a higher market cap. I mean, that's obviously part of the goal and part of getting a sustainable ecosystem. But I think, even at a $2 million market cap, for somebody to be able to buy 50% of the coins to break votes, it's still relatively difficult. So,
yeah. And what you might see first is someone not relying solely on Tellor. I know you used the auto example, but they might take a median. They might just include Tellor's oracle price in their median of prices, in which case we're contributing to the decentralization and security of that price feed, but we're not the solely responsible entity. Okay, this is for you, Nick. Describe Witnet in one sentence.
Man, Witnet's really hard.
This is the one you can't describe in one sentence.
Yeah, so Witnet's an oracle with its own blockchain. It listens for requests. It has like miners over on its own blockchain. They listen for requests on Ethereum, and when they get it, they send back the result. That's like...
And miners...
It's like one sentence without explaining their security model.
And whether or not you get to be the winning miner depends on the reputation you've built up.
Yeah.
As well. So it's not just like your hash power, it's your reputation as a miner. Would you say all projects with tokens are effectively mini central banks? If so, is it fun running a mini central bank? I like this question.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, you and Brenda are economists.
Yeah, I mean, I would... Yeah, I mean, I studied sort of monetary economics for quite a while, and it's sort of fun dealing with those things, but you're also dealing with sort of this non-monetary asset, so it's really different because like some of the research carries over into token land, but some of it doesn't. Most of it doesn't, So it's a little bit different because I think you have they're sort of like hybrid monetary assets / securities / commodities. There's like little aspects of everything involved in there. And it's really hard to, pick which one it is. And also, as the regulators know, and it's also really hard to, how do you pick a proper growth rate and incentivize those things, which are things that we deal with. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fun. I love thinking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say it has been pretty, I would use the word neat. It is pretty neat to have built something that has those economic features to it, and watching it grow and gain value and spread around. It's been really neat. Any new Tellor features to be released?
Ooh. Probably some exciting news over the next month. Yeah. Not telling you when. But so we are working on like a V2 Tellor, which will probably be released like Q3. And that's going to have more of the really exciting features involved. So think things like, we can reduce the block times. We can introduce just more ways to interact with your token, more data being generated, just making it faster and better and all around overall more effective. And those are some of the more exciting ones that are a little bit longer away, just because the more changes you make, the longer it takes to sort of audit it and test it.
Yeah.
So, and, just making sure that we get kind of the pieces correct are things that we want to do.
Yeah. We're crawling before we can walk, before we run.
Yes.
For those of you who read that off. Are you a fan of UMA? Do you have any critiques of their project?
So UMA is Universal Market Access. They're a derivatives protocol. They're very, very similar actually to what we were trying to build, what we built at Daxia. They ran into sort of the Oracle problem as well. And I really like what they do in the Oracle minimized designs. So they're a company that definitely gets the trade-off that you need to have whenever you're dealing with a decentralized Oracle. Things sort of aren't fast and final, and the whole design of the derivative should be meant to not use an Oracle very much. You want to just use it as sort of this dispute resolution mechanism, and that's some of the things that they have. My big critique is just, tell Hart, their CEO, just get launched. They've been, I just push it out. They're slowly starting to push out some products, but we're of the mindset that it's scary releasing things because people might not use it, but then or people might want to change it, but that's also the beauty of it, is that you can change it and you can iterate faster and you can find something that works. And that's what we're trying to do. We're here trying to figure out the next best version, because we've been doing this for a year rather than just sitting in an ivory tower somewhere doing research for a year. We're talking to the users, we're talking to you guys.
Yeah.
And that's more of our mindset. So,
do you have a partnership with PegNet?
No. So we've been talking to them about joining the Alliance of Decentralized Oracles. That would be what we've been talking with them about.
Yeah, we've talked with David Johnston, who actually is really eager to become a member of the ADA, which is another cool thing. You put this little group together, and now other projects are hearing about it, and they're eager to get involved. That's how you've done something interesting. So we're more than happy to welcome those guys in. How big is the team? Do you have plans to hire more people?
3 of us. We would love to hire more people. It just comes down to how much funds you have and how responsible you can be with them. We want to do this for the long run. We don't really want to burn a whole lot of money because you don't know how long another bear market might last or something. And we also know that, so we have a dev share at the moment, but you don't know, for instance, if the token price goes down, you don't have to like let people go.
Or like fluctuate their salary or do anything like that. It's
tough. Yeah, that's why we've had some kind of freelancers who have helped us with some development tasks in the past, and we pay them. And ultimately, it's one of those things that we want. We'd love to grow the team slowly. I don't think you need as big of a team as you might think. If you have a team of like 100 people in the space, it's always a question of like, well, how decentralized actually are you? Or how decentralized are you going to be? You look at like the ways that Ethereum has done it. You can do a whole lot with a small team.
Yeah, a lot of these teams that blew up in 2017 and got really bloated, they all had to downsize big time, and
it hurts. Yeah. I mean, I don't ever want to have to cut somebody's salary.
Right. Do you plan to reach out to BitMax for a potential listing on their exchange?
Yeah, I think you're.
I mean, we've talked to BitMax quite a bit, so we have a relationship with them that's ongoing. Again, I'll just defer to our
previous exchange
opinion that we've shared with you guys. But we really like BitMax. They like us. That's all I can say. And when the time comes, when it's the right time, it'll happen. Do you have any client announcements to do?
We would if we did.
Yeah.
I think that's. I think a lot of people who ask these questions all the time, like when partnerships and things like that. We don't do that kind of thing. We don't want to have like 100 Medium articles that have partnership announcements, but then nobody actually requesting data. Like a lot of times people announce partnerships like as soon as they think that they might work together at some point in the future, there's a partnership announcement. And that it's, I'm personally sick of it in the space. We want.
Well, you lose credibility after you do 50 of those.
Yeah, and the people actually look at it. Yeah, so I want to announce a partnership when their smart contract starts requesting data, and like whenever companies come to us, like we've had them, let's do a partnership announcement. It's like, how about we build into your smart contracts? We'll make a pull request or two, and then after you guys are live,
and if a miner is reporting their request,
then that's a partnership we can announce. But I don't want to, just because so much stuff in the space just falls through, and we don't want to be the project that's known for doing more of that.
Hi Nick, I hope you're doing fine. My first question to you would be, did you submit a Binance DEX proposal? If not, then when?
Not yet, no. So the Binance DEX, the way that it works is you have to like submit a proposal using BNB, and then you have to pay something else in BNB to get listed over there and get voted by the BNB members. I don't know. Basically, you just have to pay some BNB, and so we haven't done it because we don't really see the benefit. We've seen other projects that list on some of these other exchanges, and it's not like it's the instant price increase you guys might hope for. So we're talking with them, and I think we would push harder for a DEX listing over there once we can actually build on Binance Chain, which is the big thing. So Binance Chain is not right now open to smart contracts. When they do, we can implement Tellor over there. You can be on Binance DEX. You can get some TRB over there and actually use it, and then it actually makes sense. Until then, it's just basically another centralized exchange since there's a bridge. So yeah, it's not really on the priority list. So.
Can we see a demo of how Tellor is working? Yes, you can. www.tellorscan.com is a pretty good demo to see the prices being submitted and the miners being selected. We are, that's definitely and
Yeah, I mean,
MVP.
there's also lots of test contracts we can point you to.
Yeah.
So if you look at like the user contracts and in the Tellor repo, so I know that's not like, if you're not like a coder, you can't see it necessarily. So like seeing how Tellor works via a command line is never as exciting.
Right.
Yeah, we should build a flashy front end demo for Tellor.
It's in our
Yeah.
plans for sure. What are your thoughts on proof of stake? Not specifically with regards to Tellor, but in general.
I like it. So proof of stake in general, it's still early to see what's going to happen with it. So there's a lot of security problems. Like kind of the strength of any consensus model here in blockchain world is you don't know unless you try it for a long time and it resists some attacks. And the only thing that's really been tested like that is so delegated proof of stake sort of works, proof of work, that works. But proof of stake, like completely open, it'll be interesting. There's a lot of things that are brand new with it. So I think we're just about there as a space. Luckily for Tellor, like if we would ever go to like a proof of stake, since we're built on top of Ethereum, we don't have some of the issues that a proof of stake network would have. So it like simplifies everything that we don't have to worry about like consensus across nodes and things like that. So it would be a little bit different and probably easier for Tellor, which would be cool.
What is the difference between Tellor and Chainlink? The ever asked question.
Yeah, so the big difference I would say is, we'll boil it down to like our one sentence big differences. So Tellor has a network of data reporters that listens to our smart contract, and whenever we get a request on our smart contract, we put, they all compete to place that data back in that smart contract. So the price of Bitcoin, and anybody can read it. Chainlink, they actually don't have an open network of miners. So they have sort of these whitelist. It's not anybody can compete to do it. You have to get approved to go be one of their nodes. So they have these big nodes that stake a whole bunch of link tokens. And then whenever they listen to go put a price, then they go report it. So basically the big difference is kind of the whitelisting of the nodes for them versus we're open and we have competition using proof of work. And then there's plenty of other differences as well, but I'd say that's the main difference at the moment. So
this is kind of, again, I'm just going to read all the questions, even if some of them are repeats. This one is there a blanket ban on Tellor paying for exchange listings, or does it depend? I don't think it's a blanket ban.
Yeah, I mean, it all just depends. Like, we don't have...
We paid for IDEX.
Yeah, IDEX because we wanted a first one.
Yes.
And then...
It made sense. They're good.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if the price is right, like, if we could get listed on Coinbase for $10, you better believe, like, I'm paying that $10. It's just all, a price and then what we see the return as. So, and obviously if you guys really think that there's some return out there from paying a large fee, most of these exchanges, like whenever we talk to them, they actually don't want us telling you guys the fees. So, it's not like we can necessarily like pass on and say like, hey, they're charging us $1 million. But if you guys really feel like something's worth it, put some numbers out there. If you guys are willing to contribute, we'd love some of those things as well. But yeah, it's not a blanket ban, but a general, probably not kind of mentality, just because we don't feel like exchanges and liquidity are our problem right now.
Yeah, I would say we're conservative about it, very conservative. Yeah. This is a fun one. What is your favorite music genre? For Nick, Mike, and Brenda.
Brenda is Latin music.
Or classical.
Classical or Latin.
Yeah.
We'll speak
easy
for
listening, Brenda. Latin easy listening.
Mike?
I don't know if I can really answer this in one. Because I can't pick. So I don't know. I might say classic rock as I guess a subgenre of rock, but there's so many more.
Yeah, I mean, we love lots of music here, so we can maybe tell our music times someday.
We could publish like a playlist.
Yeah, I'm a big progressive rock fan.
Yeah, he likes math rock,
but I like a lot of everything. So
prog rock. Couple of ETH2 questions. They're both the same. Does ETH2 solve scaling? I mean, are you excited for ETH2?
ETH2 will help with scaling, but I am way more worried for ETH2 because probably when ETH2 hits, it's going to be a whole lot of issues, because I think kind of how you expect smart contracts to work or how you feel that they work now is going to change in a lot of ways. And we'll probably have to, just to taper expectations for everyone, we will probably have to redeploy and maybe even get a new contract address for Tellor when that happens. Just because if you're going to want, if ETH 2.0 really does scale at the rate that they do, I mean, who knows what we could build then. It could be way better, and there could even be limitations if we leave it on kind of ETH 1.0. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with it. But it's going to be, it's sort of going to be a lot of work. I know that.
Is Tellor working on making integration with us super smooth, easy?
With what? Yeah, so
integrating with Tellor is.
Yeah, so we have an NPM package out there. Brandon and I, we just did another project. We like to do kind of mini hackathons.
What's an NPM package, Nick?
An NPM package, it's just a really easy way to say that you're using Tellor, so you can just import into your code repository the Tellor smart contracts that you need and easily test them and use them. So we had run into, because several times we've tried building on the other oracles at hackathons in the past, and we find their documentation is just really hard. It's really hard to test. They make you test on some network you don't want to. We want to make it super easy. So we, every month we make sure that we try and pretend that we're novices and go through the documentation and try and implement it and tweak it where we need to, add things, take things out, just so that way it's really simple. But we'd love feedback, so let us know.
This one, actually, the person left their name, Vonum PL.
He's a miner.
Yeah.
Discord.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. He says, do you guys plan to change the algorithm in the future? Because the current algo may already have ASIC or FPGA exploits. I propose a very GPU algorithm called ProgPow. And the GPU will help the project be more decentralized.
Yeah, I think we're open to it. Maybe like a V2, so later in the year or something. We'd definitely be open to it, but then at the same time, you'd also want to look into, there's a lot of research that says ASIC exposure is good. It shows, if somebody's willing to invest $10 million or something to build an ASIC into your project, they're probably going to want the best for it. Whereas
for a longer term.
Whereas a GPU miner might, for-profit GPU miners will just point at the next shiny new object. So there's pro and con arguments either way. So yeah, but I mean, we're definitely open to exploring it.
Yeah. Okay, we already answered this question. What is the meaning of Nick's tattoo?
I'm guessing you guys mean
which tattoo?
Exactly. So I have an anchor right here, and then I actually have a rose right here. The anchor is for Sailor, and the rose is for her middle name Rose, both of which are my two daughters.
And you also have on the other shoulder.
Oh, my Mandalorian crest.
The Mandalorian crest. Well, that one's cool.
Yeah.
We have a group called the Tellorians.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Can JavaScript library be prepared for developers so that people can call it easily? I mean, JS is still the most popular language after all.
So I mean, we could, but it's one of those things like the piece that we want easy to integrate is solidity. Because those are the people who actually need to call it. You don't need to read off of Tellor. Like if you just want to read off of Tellor, that's just Web3. That's just reading the Ethereum blockchain. Which there's already quite a lot of libraries. We did make an API. You can go look at that. Tellor REST. We have some documentation up there. So if you just want to read some of the values, it's really easy, even if you're not familiar with Ethereum. So yeah, that one shouldn't be too tough.
What about RX Miner? Thanks.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what RX Miner is.
I hear people talking about it, so I don't know.
And then, the final one is, why did you take more VC money?
Oh, man.
Well, we didn't want, for one, we don't want to give up.
Yeah, so VCs want something in return. I think whenever it comes down to, like, okay, the one thing, Binance gets a small portion of the dev share. How much dev share do you want to sell off? I don't know. Probably not very much. Is your equity worth anything? That's another question here in the space. Because for a lot of these projects, if you have a token, that's eventually going, especially for us, we're really bad at being dishonest about these kind of things. Like if we want our equity to hold value, is that different than the token holding value? And if we truly do become a decentralized oracle to where, being truly decentralized means you guys can live without the team. So I always like to say at some point in the future, we're going to be so decentralized that you guys just we move the dev fund to a DAO or something and fund it that way. And VCs are like, well, it doesn't necessarily jive with their concept of a normal return. And it's really hard for them to understand. And, especially VCs in the crypto world, they just want to flip your token. So many VCs that we talk to, they just want to get in on some pre-sale, and then whenever you do an IEO, they don't. We don't want anything to do with those guys. We want VCs who are in it for kind of the long run, who want to work with us. And if there's still VCs out there that want something that we have, and we can sort of give it to them, as even if it is a little bit of the dev share for money or something like that, we'd be happy to. But it's we want a relationship that works for everyone, kind of for the long term. We don't want token flippers.
Yeah, the short answer is they wanted more tokens than we could give them, without breaking Tellor at the beginning.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, well, how strict are you on the no pre-mine thing? And we're like, we're trying to be pretty strict on it.
Yeah.
We're not going to print 60% of the tokens to give to you guys.
Yeah.
So, any more?
That's it.
Okay. So thanks for coming, everyone. It's always fun doing all these questions. We got a lot of views last time, so hopefully you guys continue to watch it and ask more questions, and feel free to continue to engage. Like we said, just reach out to us about other projects you find, other AMAs you want us to do, media things. Just you guys got to be kind of our eyes and ears out there. We're trying our hardest too, but we're so much better if every single one of you are engaged as well.
And you guys have been really awesome this past week or this past month. So everything.
And great job on the community polls.
Yeah.
Those kind of things are just awesome. So keep it up, guys. Thanks.
See you next week.
Yep.